Welcome to ForexTV.com. Today is Monday, April 28th. I'm Remy Hookey with your New York Forex Market Buzz. In afternoon trade, as of 1:10 p.m. Eastern Time, Euro dollar is around 1.5640. Sterling dollar is trading at 1.9910, while dollar yen is at 1.0440. U.S. equities are seeing modest strength with the major indexes up in positive territory. In a U.S. data-heavy week, the FOMC meeting begins tomorrow, and the market awaits the rate announcement on Wednesday afternoon at 2:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Also being watched is Q1 advanced U.S. GDP and Friday's nonfarm payrolls. And taking a quick look at commodities, NYMEX crude oil hit a new record high on geopolitical and supply disruption concerns. This afternoon, I'm joined by Matthew Strauss, Senior Currency Strategist at RBC Capital Markets. Good afternoon, Matthew.
Hi, good afternoon, Remy.
Happy Monday, and thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Well, as we kick off the week, all eyes are on the Fed rate decision on Wednesday afternoon. And dollar negative sentiment improved towards the end of last week, but given immediate inflation concerns in the near term, if you could give us your expectations for Wednesday's Fed decision and your euro-dollar forecast for this week.
Yeah, I think what we've seen so far today at least is the market moving into a holding pattern after a very strong rally in the dollar last week. Waiting for the FOMC, a few weeks ago the market was looking for a 50 basis point cut by the Fed. Now the market has moved more back towards a 25 basis point cut, and with the odd chance that they might not even cut rates at all. Now we think that is unlikely. We do believe they will cut rates. We're still looking either a 25 or a 50 basis points, but do recognize, given the focus again on inflationary pressures of late, that the scale is probably tilted towards a 25 basis points, and we see that as a major risk for our own forecast of 50 basis points. What the market will also be looking at is the statement afterwards, whether the Fed actually indicates that they're moving to the sidelines, waiting for the impact of the easing campaign to start showing up in the real economy, as well as waiting for the impact of the government stimulus, especially in the third quarter. So we would be very, very acutely aware of the fact that they might change their dovish stance to a more neutral stance. That in itself would be positive for the US dollar. So overall, we're looking actually for a positive week for the US dollar. But as far as ranges are concerned, if we look at euro dollar, the first level to be broken would be 155.82. But the very important level would be 154.01. That's a support level that established itself just after the rally in the US dollar when Bear Stearns was bailed out by JP Morgan and the Fed. So those are the two important support levels we were looking for on the top side. 116, that all-important psychological level, remains our top side target.
Okay, well, Matthew, now that you've given us your forecast this week in terms of euro-dollar, let's take a look at euro-sterling. Given what we've been seeing in price action for the pound today, the UK currency is back down around the 1.9910 level after trading as low as 1.9781 in European trade and a high of 1.9964. So if you could give us your outlook for cable against both the euro and the US dollar.
Well, I think cable has been one of the more volatile currencies of late. It is because the market are struggling to get a good sense of what the Bank of England would be doing. It generally accepted they will continue cutting rates, but the question is how fast and how quickly. We've seen last week, at the beginning of last week, they introduced a 15 billion pound stimulus package into the market. So that might delay some further interest rate cuts. But as the market swings between aggressive interest rate cuts and a gradual interest rate cut, we've seen some significant volatility in the currency. If we then look at the sterling against the euro, moving within that 80, just below below the 80 range, and we're currently looking at on the bottom side 77.47, and on the top side just above the 80 level 80.50. That's on euro sterling. Against the US dollar, there's a slight downward trend once again in place, and we would be looking at levels close to on the bottom side 197.23, and on the top side we're looking just above the 2 level, going up as high as 20020. That would be sterling US dollar.
Okay, now let's take a look at the commodity currencies of the Australian dollar and the Canadian dollar. We had rate decisions out from the respective countries of Australia and Canada last week, not to mention the RBNZ. So briefly for the dollar block currencies, if you could give us your forecast this week.
Well, as far as the Australian dollar is concerned, on the bottom side, we're looking at our support 93.02, and then a very important level for us would be on the top side 94.93. If that levels break, we could look at new all-time highs for the Australian dollar. But so a fairly broad range, very much dependent on the broader risk themes as we continue throughout the week, and therefore also dependent on the GDP data from the US, as well as the non-farm payrolls on Friday. On the Canadian side, despite oil prices at record highs, the Canadian dollar continued to trade in a very, very narrow range, and we don't see that changing in the near future. On the dollar Canada, on the support side, exactly at parity, and then on the top side we move just above 102, so we're looking at 102.50. That's for the Canadian dollar.
Okay, and last but not least, before we wrap it up for today's interview, let's take a look at the yen against both the US dollar and euro. Matthew, fundamentally and technical, what is your forecast for the Japanese yen in the near term?
I think the yen also, almost like the Australian dollar, very much depend on the broader risk themes, and therefore development in the US and the market becoming more confident that the US economy is bottoming. So against that backdrop, we're looking for probably some further yen weakness. Dollar yen could move as high as 105.93, and the flip side of that coin would be 102.60. Against the euro, fairly wide range as well, 162.10 on the bottom side and 165 on the top side.
Okay, Matthew, thank you very much for insight and analysis, and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
You're more than welcome.
This has been your Forex Market Buzz with Matthew Strauss, Senior Currency Strategist at RBC Capital Markets. I'm Remy Hokie. Join us later this afternoon, 4 p.m. exchange, right here on ForexTV.com.